Ever get the feeling like some people are just, hardwired for speed?
Yeah.
Today, we're diving deep into a life that'll really make you wonder. Rudolf Caracciola,
The Rainmaster.
the Rainmaster of motorsport. You mentioned being fascinated by racing, and this guy's story has it all. Raw talent, these epic rivalries, and a career that unfolded against, well, a really turbulent period in history.
It's true. To understand Caracciola, you really need to understand the context. He wasn't just this incredible driver. This was a guy navigating the changing world of motorsport during, huge social and political upheaval.
Right, so we've got biographies, we've got race reports, even some glimpses into Caracciola's own thoughts from his writings. Buckle up, because this is a journey through history as much as it is about racing.
Absolutely.
But let's start with Caracciola himself. What ignited this guy's passion for speed?
It seems speed was practically in his DNA. Even as a kid growing up in Remagen, Germany, he was completely fixated on cars. Picture this. 14-year-old Rudolf already dreaming of becoming a race car driver.
Wow, 14. He must have barely been able to see over the steering wheel, but I guess it shows how deeply ingrained this passion was, even at that age.
Oh, absolutely. And it makes his story even more interesting when you realize he didn't come from, a wealthy, well-connected family.
Right.
His parents ran a hotel, and he actually trained as an apprentice at Fafnir, an automobile company, to, learn the mechanics firsthand.
So, not exactly born into the world of elite racing.
No.
This makes his rise even more impressive. Did he jump straight into cars?
Well, his need for speed, it actually found an outlet on two wheels first.
Okay.
Caracciola cut his teeth racing motorcycles. And it was on those early endurance races, particularly with NSU motorcycles, where his natural talent started turning heads.
Endurance races are grueling.
Oh, yeah.
It takes the different breed to handle those, a blend of speed and stamina.
For sure.
So when did he transition to four wheels?
That happened while he was still an apprentice at Fafnir. They decided to enter the 1922 Avis race in Berlin. And this wasn't just any race either. The Avis was this high-speed track, notorious for its banked curves. And guess who they put behind the wheel of their entry?
A young Caracciola, already making his mark.
You got it. He finished an impressive fourth, even managing to outperform his fellow Fafnir drivers.
That's a statement if I've ever heard one. Such a gutsy move so early in his career, it must have fueled his ambition even further.
Oh, absolutely.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing from there, was it? I mean, post-World War I, Germany was a tumultuous time.
Right.
How did that impact his trajectory?
You're right. Life in post-war Germany was incredibly complex. And Caracciola's story is, well, it's interwoven with those realities. Yeah. For instance, there was this incident where he got into a scuffle with a Belgian soldier at a nightclub.
Hold on, a nightclub brawl? That's not something you typically hear about in a racing legend's biography?
Right.
What happened?
Well, remember, the Rhineland, where Caracciola was from, was under Belgian occupation after the war, and tensions were high. This incident forced him to relocate, basically sending him on a detour to Dresden.
Wow. Talk about a turning point. Did this derail his racing aspirations?
Not at all. In fact, you could say this unexpected turn of events steered him directly toward his destiny.
Okay.
Caracciola kept racing in Dresden, racking up wins in borrowed cars, even catching the eye of Daimler, Mercedes-Benz's parent company.
Oh.
They were so impressed they hired him as a salesman.
Selling cars by day, racing them by night. It sounds almost too perfect for a motorsports legend in the making.
It really does.
So this is where things really start to take off for Caracciola.
This is where it gets good.
But before we get to his legendary status as the Rainmaster,
Yes.
we need to rewind to the 1926 German Grand Prix.
Ah, yes.
And that's a race I've heard whispers about. This is where Caracciola solidified his reputation.
Right. Absolutely. The 1926 German Grand Prix was a defining moment. Not just for Caracciola's career, but for motorsports history. But we'll dive into the details of that legendary race right after. Right, so the 1926 German Grand Prix. Not just another race, but a turning point for Caracciola. Imagine this. It's pouring rain, the Avis circuit is notoriously fast even in the dry, and our determined Rudolf. He's starting a full minute behind everyone else.
A minute? That's like a lifetime in racing. What was the strategy there? Some rookie mistake or like a deliberate choice?
It's actually a pretty wild story. You see, Mercedes-Benz, still a young company at the time, had decided to skip the German Grand Prix.
Really?
To focus on a more prestigious race in Spain.
Wait, seriously, their rising star wants to race on home turf, and they say no?
Well, it wasn't quite that simple.
Okay.
Caracciola was passionate about racing in Germany. So passionate, in fact, that he went directly to Mercedes in Stuttgart and basically begged them for a car. They eventually agreed.
Wow.
But there was a catch. He'd have to enter it as a privateer, not an official factory driver.
Talk about dedication. But starting a minute late in those treacherous conditions, that sounds like an almost impossible task.
Oh, it was a battle, no doubt about it. The rain was coming down in buckets, turning the track into a slick, unforgiving nightmare. Cars were spinning out everywhere.
Oh, man.
Tragically, his teammate, Adolf Rosenberger, was killed in a crash. It was a stark reminder of the risks these drivers faced.
That's heartbreaking. The dangers of motorsport were so much greater back then. It must have been incredibly difficult for Caracciola to continue racing after witnessing such a tragedy.
Absolutely. But even in the face of such a devastating loss, Caracciola remained focused.
Yeah.
And this is where his, almost superhuman skill in the rain comes in. He was practically dancing with the car, navigating those slippery turns with unbelievable precision and control, just passing one competitor after another.
He was in his element, wasn't he? Like he could see the road even through the sheets of rain.
Precisely. And here's the kicker. When he finally crossed the finish line, he had no idea he'd actually won. He'd been so locked in on his driving, so focused on conquering each turn, that he'd lost track of the other racers.
Wow.
It was a testament not only to his skill, but also to his unwavering focus. That race, that victory against all odds, cemented his legacy as Regenmeister, the Rainmaster.
What a story. But his career didn't unfold in a vacuum, did it? This was the 1920s and 30s, a time of economic depression and rising political tensions across Europe.
Right.
How did Caracciola navigate those turbulent years?
That's what makes his story so compelling. It's not just about racing. It's about resilience, ambition, and navigating a world on the brink. The Great Depression hit Mercedes hard, forcing them to withdraw from racing in 1931. But Caracciola's talent was undeniable. The Italian powerhouse Alfa Romeo recognized his abilities and quickly signed him.
From German precision to Italian flair, that must have been quite a culture shock, even for someone as adaptable as Caracciola.
Adapting to a new car, team, and culture is no easy feat. But Caracciola took it all in stride. He continued to win, even clinching victory at the 1931 Miglia.
For those of us who aren't familiar, what made the Miglia so significant?
Imagine this. Thousands of miles of open road from Brescia to Rome and back again, pushing both car and driver to their absolute limits.
Wow.
It was a true test of endurance and skill, and Caracciola not only won it, but set a new record in the process.
That's the mark of a true champion.
Absolutely.
But we'd be remiss not to touch upon the elephant in the room, the rise of the Nazi Party during this era.
Right.
How did that impact Caracciola's life and career?
It's a complex issue, and we need to approach it with nuance.
Yeah.
Like many in Germany during that time, Caracciola's life became intertwined with the political realities of the Nazi regime. He did join the National Socialist Motor Corps, the NSKK.
That's a difficult piece of the puzzle to reconcile.
Right?
How do we understand that choice within the broader context of his life and character?
It's crucial to remember that joining the NSKK wasn't always an indicator of strong ideological support for the Nazi Party. For many, it was a means to an end, a way to participate in motorsports, which the regime heavily promoted.
So a complex picture. What do we know about Caracciola's personal views during this time?
Well, while he did make some public statements in line with the regime, especially in the lead-up to the 1938 elections, his actions suggest a more intricate reality. His decision to reside in neutral Switzerland, for example, speaks volumes. And there are accounts of him resisting efforts to use his platform solely for propaganda, even pushing back against the regime on certain occasions when he felt uncomfortable with what was being asked of him.
It sounds like he was navigating a very precarious and morally ambiguous landscape, trying to maintain his integrity while also protecting his career and potentially even his own safety.
Precisely. It's a reminder that history is rarely black and white. But in 1934, Caracciola returned to Mercedes.
Okay.
It was during this second stint with the company that he truly cemented his legendary status. The return of the legend.
However, his return was marked by both triumph and tragedy.
This is what makes his story so fascinating. He wasn't just a name in the record books. He was a man who faced incredible challenges, both on and off the track, and emerged as a true icon. But to delve into those details, we'll have to hold for the next part of our deep dive. We left off with Caracciola back in the driver's seat at Mercedes. A triumphant return, yet, like you said, tinged with tragedy.
Yeah.
What happened that overshadowed his comeback?
It unfolded during a practice run for the 1933 Monaco Grand Prix.
Hmm.
Caracciola was giving his Scuderia CC teammate Luis Chiron a feel for the Alfa Romeo. And, well, the unexpected happened. Catastrophic brake failure.
Oh, no.
The car slammed into a concrete barrier at high speed.
Just horrific. To survive a crash like that,
Yeah.
it's almost unimaginable.
His survival was a testament to his strength, both physically and mentally, but
Right.
the crash left him with a severely injured leg, a constant source of pain.
Oh, wow. And as if that wasn't enough, tragedy struck again. His wife, Charlotte, died in an avalanche while he was recovering.
That's just heartbreaking. To endure that level of physical and emotional pain, it's hard to imagine having the will to race again.
Most wouldn't have.
Yeah.
But racing was more than a career for Caracciola. It was like his lifeblood. He battled through the pain, the grief, the doubt, returning to the track, even with his leg still healing. And when Mercedes-Benz re-entered Grand Prix racing in 1934 with their groundbreaking W25,
Yes.
he was their man.
Cue the era of the legendary silver arrows. This was motorsports at its most captivating. Mercedes-Benz and Auto Union locked in this fierce rivalry. What was it like to witness Caracciola in his element, pushing those powerful machines to their limits?
Imagine this. Caracciola, he wasn't always the fastest off the starting line, but he was a master tactician. He read the race like a chess grandmaster, anticipating every move, conserving his car's energy.
Wow.
And then, when the opportunity arose, he'd unleash the might of that silver arrow, surging ahead with breathtaking precision.
He made it sound so effortless, but we know those races were anything but. Were there any moments that stand out as, defining examples of Caracciola's unique driving style?
Absolutely. Take the 1937 German Grand Prix, for instance. Caracciola chose to hang back, allowing his rivals to lead for a significant portion of the race, all while meticulously preserving his tires. Then, in a display of, calculated brilliance,
Right.
he unleashed the full power of his silver arrow in the final laps, overtaking his opponents one by one.
Wow.
That was classic Caracciola patience, strategy, and a decisive strike when it mattered most.
It's almost as if he was playing a different game than his rivals.
Hmm.
But it wasn't just his Mercedes teammates he had to contend with, was it? There was a young, ambitious driver named Bernd Rosemeyer who pushed him relentlessly. Tell us about their legendary rivalry.
Ah, Rosemeyer, the fog master to Caracciola's Rainmaster.
Right.
Their rivalry captivated motorsport enthusiasts. Rosemeyer was daring, almost reckless at times, pushing his Auto Union to the very edge and often beyond.
A stark contrast to Caracciola methodical approach.
Yeah.
How did he handle this, audacious young challenger?
He respected him. He recognized Rosemeyer's raw talent. But their different approaches to racing, they were never more evident than during the 1938 speed record attempts on the newly built Autobahn.
Those were legendary feats of speed and engineering, cars blasting down the Autobahn at unimaginable velocities. It must have been an incredible spectacle.
It was a battle for the record books, imagine. Caracciola, meticulous as always, prepared his streamlined Mercedes-Benz W125 with painstaking precision, calculating every variable, minimizing every risk. He achieved a record-breaking speed, a mind-blowing 268 miles per hour. But Rosemeyer, always up for a challenge, was determined to take the crown.
And this is where the story takes a tragic turn.
Sadly, it does. Despite Caracciola's warnings about the increasing wind speeds along the course, Rosemeyer took his Auto Union out for another run. Traveling at over 250 miles per hour, he lost control. The crash was fatal.
What a devastating loss. A stark reminder of the razor-thin margin for error in such a dangerous sport. How did Caracciola process such a tragedy, especially given their fierce rivalry?
Rosemeyer's death, it deeply affected Caracciola. It forced him to confront the inherent risks they faced every time they got behind the wheel. That fine line between chasing glory and, courting disaster.
Yeah.
He even questioned the purpose of it all, this pursuit of speed that could end in a heartbeat.
And yet he continued to race.
He did. And in a somber twist of fate, in that same year, 1938, overshadowed by tragedy, Caracciola clinched his third European championship title.
Wow.
A bittersweet victory. A testament to his resilience and undeniable skill, but also a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made in the relentless pursuit of greatness.
What a career, what a life. To think it all unfolded against this backdrop of global unrest and uncertainty, it makes you wonder how his story might have been different had he been racing in a more peaceful era. But even amidst the turmoil, Caracciola, he etched his name into the annals of motorsport history.
He did indeed. He retired as a legend, His name synonymous with not just speed and victory, but also sportsmanship and those iconic silver arrows. Races were named in his honor, monuments were erected. Rudolf Caracciola, the Rainmaster, became a symbol of an era, a testament to human ambition and the drive to excel even in the face of adversity.
From his humble beginnings to those breathtaking, record-breaking runs, Rudolf Caracciola's story is one for the ages. It leaves us with a final thought. What can we learn from his legacy, from his triumphs, his tragedies, his unwavering passion for pushing the limits? That's something to ponder, I think. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the life and times of a true motorsport icon.